Calaroga Shark Media.
In 778, Pope Adrian I sat in his study in the Lateran Palace, carefully composing a letter to the most powerful ruler in Western Europe. Charlemagne, king of the Franks, had proven himself a formidable ally, but also an independent partner who made his own decisions about church affairs. Adrian needed something more compelling than mere requests to secure Charlemagne's continued generosity to the Roman Church. In his letter, Adrian made a remarkable historical claim. He reminded Charlemagne how, in the times of Blessed Sylvester, the Roman Pontiff, the Holy Catholic and Apostolic Roman Church, was elevated and exalted by the most pious Emperor Constantine the Great through his generosity, and he deigned to grant power in these western regions. The Pope was referencing a document that supposedly proved Constantine had given the Western Roman Empire to the papacy 3 centuries earlier. What Adrian did not mention was that this document had never existed in Constantine's time. It was a forgery, created sometime in the previous decades by unknown hands in the papal chancery. Yet this fabricated donation of Constantine would become one of the most influential documents in medieval history, shaping papal claims to temporal power for nearly 700 years. Today we explore how a forged document became the legal foundation for papal territorial claims and temporal authority, and how medieval fraud created lasting political realities. This is White Smoke, Episode 28, The Forged Donation. The document known as the Donation of Constantine purported to be an imperial decree issued by Emperor Constantine the Great sometime between the years 315 and 317, addressed to Pope Sylvester I. Like many effective forgeries, it mixed genuine historical elements with fabricated claims to create a plausible narrative that served specific political purposes. The forged document consisted of 2 main sections. The first, titled Confessio, told the story of Constantine's conversion to Christianity. According to this fabricated account, Constantine had been afflicted with leprosy that no physician could cure. Pope Sylvester miraculously healed the emperor through baptism, leading to Constantine's conversion and his desire to reward the church for this divine intervention. The second section, the Donatio proper, contained the supposed imperial grants. Constantine allegedly bestowed upon Sylvester and his successors supremacy over the major Christian centers of Antioch, Alexandria, Constantinople, and Jerusalem. More significantly, he granted the Pope temporal authority over Rome, Italy, and all the western provinces of the Roman Empire, along with imperial insignia, including the right to wear a crown and purple robes. The donation of Constantine represented a sophisticated attempt to provide legal and historical justification for papal temporal claims, explains Dr. Christopher Coleman, specialist in medieval documentary forgery. By grounding papal authority in an imperial grant rather than purely spiritual foundations, the forgers created a secular legal basis for church territorial control that could compete with other temporal authorities. The document's fabrication reflected several important political realities of 8th century Italy. The Byzantine Empire's control over Italian territories was weakening, creating opportunities for new authorities to assert territorial claims. The Lombard Kingdom posed a continuing threat to papal independence, making protection from Frankish allies essential. The rising power of the Carolingian dynasty offered potential partnership but also demanded justification for papal territorial autonomy. The forged donation addressed all these challenges by creating a legal precedent for papal territorial control that predated any competing claims. If Constantine had legitimately granted Western imperial authority to the papacy, then Byzantine, Lombard, or Frankish claims to Italian territories could be dismissed as violations of established papal rights. The timing of the document's creation, most likely during the pontificate of Stephen II in the 750s, coincided perfectly with the papal alliance with Pepin the Short. Stephen's desperate journey across the Alps to seek Frankish protection had resulted in Pepin's promise to grant conquered Lombard territories to the church. The donation provided historical justification for these territorial grants by suggesting they represented restoration of ancient papal rights rather than new political arrangements. The first documented use of the donation occurred during this crucial period of papal-Frankish negotiations. While no direct evidence proves Stephen presented the document to Pepin during their meetings, the timing suggests its creation was connected to these territorial negotiations. Pepin, who was largely illiterate, would have been unable to evaluate the document's authenticity and would have had little reason to question papal historical claims. The effectiveness of the forgery depended on several factors that made verification difficult in the 8th century. Few people possessed the linguistic skills to evaluate the document's Latin style or identify anachronistic terms that revealed its medieval origin. Even fewer had access to 4th century imperial documents that might have revealed the forgery's inconsistencies with genuine Constantinian decrees.
Want to hear your favorite shows without any ads? It's easy. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, just tap the banner that says Uninterrupted Listening and unlock commercial-free versions of this show and all your other Calaroga favorites for just $4.99 a month. Even better, you get a 30-day free trial to start. That includes Palace Intrigue, your daily dose of royal family drama, 5 good news stories where we spotlight feel-good headlines, 5 daily trivia questions to test your brain, daily comedy news, bringing you the latest in comedy, celebrity trials for the biggest courtroom showdowns, and Taylor Swift Today for all things Taylor. Plus, coming September 14th, binge Season 2 of the hit series Crown and Controversy. This season, we explore how everything changed the moment Meghan met Harry, and the ripple effects that shook the royal family to its core. The power struggles, the family fractures, and the love story that rewrote the royal rulebook. All episodes drop that Sunday exclusively for subscribers. Go ad-free, binge more, and never miss a beat. Tap Uninterrupted Listening now.
The donation's most significant early use came in Adrian I's correspondence with Charlemagne during the 770s. Adrian's letter of 778 represented the first certain reference to the document by a reigning pope, though he alluded to it indirectly, rather than citing it explicitly. This careful approach suggests Adrian understood the document's questionable nature, while recognizing its political utility. Adrian's strategic use of the donation reflected the complex relationship between papal spiritual authority and temporal claims. As spiritual leader of Western Christianity, the Pope commanded respect and loyalty from Christian rulers. However, as territorial ruler seeking to maintain independence from secular powers, he needed legal justifications that could compete with imperial, royal, and ducal claims to Italian lands. Adrian's references to Constantine's supposed grants represented a sophisticated diplomatic strategy, notes Dr. Thomas Noble. By invoking historical precedent rather than making direct territorial demands, he positioned papal claims as restoration of ancient rights rather than new political ambitions. This approach was more likely to gain Frankish support than outright requests for territorial concessions. Charlemagne's response to Adrian's historical claims revealed the document's limitations as a diplomatic tool. The Frankish king simply ignored the papal references to Constantine's grants, suggesting he either questioned their authenticity or considered them irrelevant to contemporary political arrangements. Charlemagne's own vision of Christian empire left little room for papal temporal authority that might compete with imperial prerogatives. This early failure demonstrated a crucial weakness in the donation's political effectiveness. While the document could provide legal justification for papal territorial claims, its practical impact depended entirely on the willingness of secular authorities to accept its validity. Rulers who questioned papal authority or possessed their own territorial ambitions were unlikely to be impressed by ancient documents, however impressive their apparent provenance. The donation's inclusion in the 9th century collection, known as the False Decretals, marked a significant development in its influence. This compilation of genuine and forged church documents provided the fabricated Constantine decree with scholarly respectability and wider circulation throughout the Frankish Empire. The document's association with other apparently authentic papal decrees enhanced its credibility and made questioning its authenticity more difficult. Yet even within this broader circulation, the donation's immediate impact remained limited. No pope during the 9th or 10th centuries made official use of the document, despite its obvious relevance to ongoing disputes with secular authorities over territorial control and church independence. This papal reluctance suggests continuing doubts about the document's authenticity or concerns about the political risks of invoking obviously questionable historical claims. The donation's transformation from occasional diplomatic reference to foundational legal document occurred during the 11th century reform movements. Pope Leo IX became the first pontiff to cite the document officially in 1054, using extensive quotations to support papal claims of supremacy over the Eastern churches. Significantly, Leo was of German rather than Italian origin, suggesting that familiarity with the document had spread throughout the empire's scholarly networks. Leo's dramatic use of the donation contributed directly to the Great Schism of 1054, when Eastern and Western Christianity permanently separated. His claims of papal supremacy over Constantinople and other Eastern patriarchates, based partly on the forged Constantine grants, outraged Byzantine church leaders who rejected both papal authority and the document's historical authenticity. Leo IX's invocation of the donation of Constantine marked a watershed in papal political strategy, explains Dr. Rosamund McKitterick. By officially citing the document in correspondence with Constantinople, he transformed a quietly circulated forgery into a public legal claim that would shape church-state relations for centuries to come. The document's effectiveness during this period reflected changed political circumstances that made its claims more credible. The Byzantine Empire's weakness in Italy had eliminated the primary alternative to papal territorial authority. The Holy Roman Empire's struggles with internal divisions created opportunities for papal assertion of independence. The growing sophistication of church legal scholarship provided frameworks for incorporating the donation into systematic theories of papal power. During the investiture controversy of the late 11th and early 12th centuries, the donation became a standard weapon in papal arguments against imperial authority over church affairs. Reforming popes like Gregory VII invoked Constantine's supposed grants to argue that imperial power itself derived from papal sanction, since the first Christian emperor had acknowledged papal supremacy by transferring temporal authority to the church. These arguments represented a fundamental transformation of the document's purpose. Where Adrian I had used Constantine references to justify specific territorial claims, Reform-era popes employed the donation to assert theoretical supremacy over all temporal authority. The forgery had evolved from a diplomatic tool into a constitutional document that redefined the relationship between spiritual and secular power. The practical effectiveness of these expanded claims varied considerably depending on political circumstances. Strong emperors like Henry IV largely ignored papal invocations of the donation, relying instead on military force and political alliances to maintain their authority. Weaker rulers, or those seeking papal support for their own legitimacy, were more willing to acknowledge papal theoretical supremacy while maintaining practical independence. By the 13th century, the donation of Constantine had become firmly embedded in church legal collections and theoretical frameworks. Canonists and theologians routinely cited the document as proof of papal temporal authority, while political theorists incorporated its claims into systematic theories of government that subordinated secular to spiritual authority. The forgery had achieved the status of established legal precedent despite its fraudulent origins. Yet even at the height of its influence, the donation faced periodic challenges from scholars and political opponents who questioned its authenticity. Emperor Otto III's chancery had denied its validity as early as the year 1000, while various intellectuals throughout the medieval period raised doubts about its linguistic style and historical claims. These early criticisms remained largely isolated until the Renaissance humanist movement created new scholarly approaches to document analysis. Lorenzo Vala's definitive proof of the donation's fraudulent nature in 1439 to 1440 represented the culmination of centuries of growing skepticism about the document's authenticity. Valar's linguistic analysis demonstrated that the document's Latin style belonged to the 8th rather than 4th century, while his historical research revealed numerous anachronisms that proved medieval rather than ancient composition. His work represented a devastating blow to papal temporal claims that had relied on the donation's supposed authenticity for their legal foundation. The exposure of the donation as a forgery had profound implications that extended far beyond medieval politics. Protestant reformers seized upon Valar's proof as evidence of papal corruption and institutional fraud, using the document's fabrication to support broader attacks on church authority and credibility. The scandal contributed to growing demands for religious reform that would ultimately fragment Western Christianity. Yet the practical impact of Valar's revelations remained limited during his lifetime. The Catholic Church placed his work on the index of prohibited books and attempted to suppress discussion of the donation's fraudulent nature. Papal territories established through centuries of political development could not be simply dissolved by scholarly proof that their original legal justification had been fabricated. The donation of Constantine thus represents one of history's most successful frauds, a medieval forgery that shaped European political development for nearly 7 centuries, despite its obviously fabricated nature. Its influence demonstrates how historical documents can acquire authentic political force regardless of their actual origins, and how legal precedents can become established facts through repetition and acceptance rather than genuine validity. The document's legacy continues to influence modern understanding of church-state relations and the complex relationship between legal authority and political power. Its story reveals how ambitious medieval clerics transformed religious authority into temporal control through careful documentation and persistent political pressure, creating institutions that outlasted the fraudulent foundations upon which they were originally built. White Smoke is a production of Calaroga Shark Media, portions of which were made with the help of AI narration.
You can call me James. I spent 23 years designing aircraft that officially don't exist for agencies you think TV made up. Until I started asking the wrong questions. Navy ships are recording objects moving at impossible speeds. Infrastructure is failing in coordinated patterns. The moon looks smaller than it did 10 years ago. None of this is a coincidence. The official explanations don't add up. This is Paranormal Aliens, where we connect the dots they don't want connected. If you're hearing this, you know where to get podcasts. Follow Paranormal Aliens. New episodes weekly until they shut me down.
Want to hear your favorite shows without any ads? It's easy. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, just tap the banner that says Uninterrupted Listening and unlock commercial-free versions of this show and all your other Calaroga favorites for just $4.99 a month. Even better, you get a 30-day free trial to start. That includes Palace Intrigue, your daily dose of royal family drama, 5 good news stories where we spotlight feel-good headlines, 5 daily trivia questions to test your brain, daily comedy news, bringing you the latest in comedy, celebrity trials for the biggest courtroom showdowns, and Taylor Swift Today for all things Taylor. Plus, coming September 14th, binge Season 2 of the hit series Crown and Controversy. This season, we explore how everything changed the moment Meghan met Harry, and the ripple effects that shook the royal family to its core. The power struggles, the family fractures, and the love story that rewrote the royal rulebook. All episodes drop that Sunday exclusively for subscribers. Go ad-free, binge more, and never miss a beat. Tap Uninterrupted Listening now.